The stars had been old when my people first looked upon them.
I remember this now, in the silence before annihilation, how the ancient texts described that first night when Thessary eyes turned upward and wondered what lay beyond the warm embrace of our twin suns. We had been a young species then, curious, afraid, filled with questions that our primitive minds could barely articulate. We looked at the stars and saw gods. We looked at the darkness between them and imagined monsters.
We were not entirely wrong about the monsters.
12 million years. That is how long the Thessary Ascendancy has existed as a spacefaring civilization. 12 million years of expansion, of building, of war and peace, and the slow accumulation of knowledge that comes from outliving countless lesser species. We watched empires rise and crumble to dust. We catalogued the birth of stars and witnessed the death of others.
We spread across 17,000 worlds in 3 spiral arms of this galaxy, and we believed, with the absolute certainty that only the truly ancient can possess, that we had seen everything the universe could offer.
We had become gods ourselves, or so we thought.
My name is Valeth Sorn, and I am the last High Executor of the Thessary Ascendancy. I have lived for 9,000 years. I have commanded fleets that darkened the skies of 100 worlds. I have spoken with voices that predate the formation of most intelligent species in this galaxy. And I am afraid. Not the quiet fear that comes with uncertainty, nor the sharp fear of immediate danger. This is something older, something my people have not felt since we crawled from the primordial waters of our homeworld and realized for the first time that the universe did not care whether we survived.
The Vorith came from beyond the galactic rim 18 months ago. We do not know what they are. We do not know where they truly originated. We know only that they consume everything in their path, worlds, stations, fleets, hope itself, and that nothing we have done has slowed them.
Nothing.
I am sitting in a small diplomatic vessel now, drifting toward a station that my ancestors would have considered beneath notice. It is utilitarian, this station, gray metal and functional geometry. No flowing curves or crystalline spires, no testament to the eternal beauty that my people once believed was the birthright of all advanced civilizations. It looks like something a child might build from discarded parts.
It is human, and I am here to beg. The irony is not lost on me. 300 years ago, when our long-range sensors first detected the faint radio signals bleeding from a small yellow star in an unremarkable corner of the Orion arm, our scholars debated whether to even investigate. The signals were crude, electromagnetic waves carrying primitive audio and visual data, the kind of communication technology that most species abandon within a few centuries of achieving spaceflight. We sent an observation probe. It returned with data that our councils found mildly interesting and ultimately insignificant. Humans, a young species on a small blue world, just beginning to reach beyond their atmosphere. Violent, fractured into countless competing factions, they had fought 2 global wars within a single generation and possessed weapons capable of rendering their own planet uninhabitable. Our xenoanthropologists predicted they would destroy themselves within 500 years. We did not return. We did not make contact. We simply noted their existence in our vast archives and moved on to matters of actual importance.
That was 300 years ago. Now I am here, watching their station grow larger in my viewport, and I am trying to remember how to be humble. The docking protocols are efficient, clinical even. A human voice guides my vessel in with calm, measured tones that betray no emotion. I am given coordinates, approach vectors, and a docking bay assignment. No flourishes, no ceremony.
High Executive Valeth Sorn, she says, not a question. I'm Commander Sarah Chen. Welcome to Way Station Artemis. I step forward, and I am immediately aware of how I must appear to her. The Thesari are tall by galactic standards, our bodies elongated and graceful after millions of years of genetic refinement. My skin carries the iridescent shimmer of my caste, and my eyes, 4 of them, arranged in pairs, have witnessed more years than this woman's entire species has existed as a civilization.
And yet, she does not look up at me with awe. She does not shrink back in reverence or fear. She simply meets my gaze with steady brown eyes and waits.
Commander Chen, I say, I thank you for receiving me.
The words feel strange in my mouth. I have not thanked a lesser species for anything in 7,000 years.
But I do not scream, I do not shake her.
I simply say, I need you to listen.
Commander Chen nods slowly. Then let's walk and talk. The council chamber is this way.
The corridors of Way Station Artemis are narrow by Thesari standards, the ceilings low, the walls close. Everything is metal and recycled air and the quiet hum of machinery. There are humans moving past us, technicians, officers, civilians, and they glance at me with curiosity, but not with fear. Some of them nod to Commander Chen. A few even smile. I do not understand these people.
Your transmission mentioned an urgent matter, Chen says as we walk. Something about a threat to galactic security.
Yes. The word comes out more clipped than I intend. Commander, I must be direct with you. The Thesari ascendancy is dying. So I tell her. I tell her about the Voreth emerging from the void between galaxies, a swarm of biomechanical horrors that defy every principle of physics and biology we thought we understood. I tell her about the first contact, when we sent a diplomatic flotilla of 30 ships and received back only fragments. Twisted metal and organic matter fused together in configurations that our scientists could not explain. I tell her about the war. How the Voreth moved through our outer territories like wildfire through dry grass. How our weapons, refined over millions of years of conflict, proved almost entirely ineffective against their adaptive hulls. How they did not conquer our worlds, but consumed them, breaking down matter at the molecular level and incorporating it into their ever-growing swarm. I tell her about Thesser Prime.
My homeworld, the seat of our civilization, the place where my species first looked up at the stars and dreamed of touching them. It fell 11 days ago. I watched from the bridge of my flagship as the Voreth descended on the planet like a living shadow, and I gave the order to retreat because there was nothing else I could do. 9 billion Thesari lived on that world. The greatest libraries, the oldest temples, the accumulated wisdom of 12 million years. Gone. When I finish speaking, we are standing outside a set of heavy doors. Commander Chen has not interrupted me once. Her expression has not changed,
and when I look into her eyes, searching for the horror or pity or contempt that I expect to find, I see something else entirely.
I see calculation.
"How much time do we have?" she asked.
Before they reach your space? Perhaps 4 months, perhaps less. They are learning, adapting, growing faster than our models predicted.
And the armada you mentioned in your transmission, the combined fleet of the remaining galactic powers, where is it now? Holding position at the Karath Nebula. It is the last defensible position before the inner systems. We have gathered every ship we could, Thesari survivors, the Valoth hegemony, the collective of Ran, others, perhaps 900 vessels in total.
Yes, Commander, I must be honest with you. I did not come here expecting salvation. The Thesari Ascendancy dismissed your people as primitives 3 centuries ago. We did not establish diplomatic relations. We did not share technology or knowledge. We simply ignored you.
Chen's lips twitched slightly. It might be a smile, though I cannot be certain. "I know," she says. "You know?"
High Executor, humanity has been aware of the Thesari Ascendancy for quite some time. We've also been aware of the Vorath incursion since it began.
The chamber is larger than I expected. A circular room with tiered seating and a central holographic display. There are humans seated throughout, men and women in various uniforms, all of them watching me with that same quiet, patient attention that Commander Chen displayed. At the center of the room, projected in light, is a tactical map of the galaxy. I recognize the positions immediately. The spreading darkness of Vorath territory, the scattered remnants of the Thesari fleet, the staging point at the Karath Nebula.
And there, in the Orion Arm, a cluster of symbols I do not recognize.
"Please sit," Chen says, gesturing to a seat near the display. "I'd like you to meet Admiral Marcus Webb. He'll be coordinating our response." A response. She speaks as if they have already decided to help, as if this is simply a logistical matter.
Experience.
High Executor Sorn, Webb says, not rising from his seat. Your request for military assistance has been reviewed by our Joint Command. Before we proceed, I have some questions.
Of course.
Supreme Tactician Oreth Val of the Valoth hegemony. He assumed command after, I pause, after my own flagship was destroyed.
And this armada has engaged the Vorath directly? 4 times. We have not achieved a single meaningful victory. Webb nods, as if this confirms something he already knew. What do you estimate the Vorath's total strength to be?
We do not know. Every time we believe we have measured their forces, more appear. Their ships seem to regenerate or reproduce. Our best estimate is between 15 and 20,000 vessels, but that number may be significantly higher.
A murmur passes through the human officers. Webb raises a hand, and silence falls immediately.
High Executor, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'd like you to answer honestly. I will try.
Why did you come to us? Not the Valoth, not the Collective, not any of the other senior powers in this galaxy. You came to humanity, a species your people dismissed as violent primitives. Why? I am quiet for a long moment. The answer is shameful. The answer reveals the depths of our desperation. Because you are the only ones we have not asked. Webb's expression does not change. Go on. The Valoth were the first to send aid. Their fleet was destroyed within a week. The collective of Ran mobilized their entire military, 900 ships, their entire civilization's defense force. The Vorith annihilated them in a single engagement. The Thessery Ascendancy, at the height of its power, fielded 4,000 warships against the Vorith home swarm. I close my eyes. I can still see it. The void lighting up with weapons fire. The screaming on the communications channels. The impossible sight of our greatest vessels being torn apart like paper. We retreated with fewer than 200 survivors.
And now you've come to us.
Yes, because there is no one else. Because the galaxy is dying, and humanity is the only spacefaring species we have not yet asked to die with us.
Webb looks at me for a long moment. Then he glances at Commander Chen, and something passes between them. Some silent communication that I cannot interpret.
High Executor, Webb says slowly, do you know why your people dismissed humanity 300 years ago?
The question surprises me. We considered your species too young, too fragmented, too primitive to be of strategic value.
And you were right. Webb leans forward. 300 years ago, humanity was barely capable of reaching its own moon. We were fighting among ourselves over resources, ideology, territory. We were exactly what your observers saw, a violent, chaotic species on the edge of self-destruction.
Admiral, I did not come here to discuss history.
No, you came here to ask us for help, and I'm trying to explain why we're going to give it.
I fall silent.
Humanity has spent the last 3 centuries aware that we were being watched, Webb continues. We knew about your observation probes. We knew about the Thessery Ascendancy, the Veloth hegemony, all of it. And we knew that one day something would come, something that the ancient powers of this galaxy couldn't handle on their own. So we prepared.
Prepared? For what?
For this. Webb gestures and the holographic display shifts. The tactical map zooms in on the Orion arm, on human space. And I see.
I do not understand what I am seeing.
There are ships, thousands of them, hundreds of thousands, spread across dozens of systems, positioned at key defensive points, massed in formations that my tactical training tells me are meant for offense, not defense. That's not possible, I whisper. Your industrial base could not support.
Our visible industrial base, Chen says quietly. The shipyards you could have observed if you'd bothered to look more closely, those are about 8% of our actual production capacity.
Humanity learned some hard lessons in its early history, High Executor. We learned that the universe does not care about our survival. We learned that the only people we can truly rely on are ourselves. And we learned that the only way to ensure peace is to prepare for the worst war imaginable.
I am staring at the display, trying to count the ships, trying to comprehend the scale of what I am seeing. It is not possible. 300 years is nothing, a blink of an eye. How could they have built this? How could they have hidden it from the most advanced observation technology in the galaxy?
You said the Vorith would reach human space in 4 months, Webb says. You're wrong.
What?
They'll never reach human space. They're going to encounter our forward fleets in approximately 18 hours.
18 hours, they have ships within 18 hours of the Vorith advance.
Admiral, you cannot engage the Vorith with conventional tactics. Their adaptive hulls will neutralize your weapons within minutes. Their regeneration capabilities mean that any damage you inflict will be repaired almost immediately. We tried everything: kinetic weapons, directed energy, antimatter, singularity bombs. Nothing works.
We know. Then how can you possibly?
High Executor. Webb's voice is calm, almost gentle. Do you know what humanity spent most of those 300 years doing?
We watched you. All of you. The Thessari, the Valoth, everyone. We studied your wars, your weapons, your strategies. We learned from your victories and your failures. And then we asked ourselves a simple question. What if something came that you couldn't defeat?
The room is very quiet. I can hear my own heartbeat, the soft hum of the station's systems. We designed our military specifically to fight what you couldn't. Every weapon, every ship, every tactic, all of it was designed with the assumption that the conventional approaches wouldn't work, because if they worked, you wouldn't need us.
That's insane. You built your entire military around a hypothetical threat that might never come?
Webb stands, and for the first time I notice how the other humans in the room are watching him. There is respect in their eyes, yes, but also something else. Absolute trust. Absolute conviction. In 18 hours, the first Vorith fleet will encounter our forward interdiction force. Simultaneously, we will begin deploying assets to support the Armada at Karath. Within 72 hours, we will have full operational coordination with all surviving galactic forces. Admiral, the Armada is waiting for reinforcements that the High Command has been trying to gather for weeks. You cannot simply... I am escorted through more corridors, past more humans, moving with that same quiet efficiency. I see technicians running diagnostics on equipment I do not recognize. I see soldiers checking weapons that look nothing like anything in my experience. I see screens displaying tactical data, fleet dispositions, logistics chains that span dozens of star systems. And everywhere I see calm. Just preparation. The quarters they give me are small but comfortable. A bed, a viewport looking out at the stars, a terminal that I suspect is heavily restricted. I stand at the viewport for a long time, staring at the blackness between stars. For 12 million years, the Thessari Ascendancy believed that we were the pinnacle of civilized development. We looked upon younger species with benevolent condescension, secure in our certainty that we had solved all the great problems of existence.
Now our worlds are ash. Our fleets are scattered. Our people are dying.
And humanity, primitive, violent, fragmented humanity, has spent 3 centuries quietly preparing to save us. I do not sleep. I cannot. Instead, I access what little of the station's historical database is available to me, searching for anything that might explain what I have seen.
The records are fragmentary, intentionally so, I suspect, but what I find is illuminating.
Humanity's history is violence. That much we knew from our initial observations. But it is also survival. Over and over again, across millennia of recorded history, humans have faced extinction-level threats and somehow endured. Plagues that killed half their population, wars that burned entire continents, weapons capable of rendering their planet uninhabitable. And each time they rebuilt, adapted, learned, I find a phrase that appears repeatedly in their historical texts. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Where my people looked at our past and saw proof of our superiority, humans looked at theirs and saw warnings of their own capacity for destruction. Where we became complacent in our power, they became terrified of their own potential.
They did not build their military because they wanted to conquer the galaxy. They built it because they were afraid of what might happen if they did not. I learned that the Vorith have accelerated their advance as if they sense something changing in the galactic situation. I learn that the first engagement is imminent.
When the time comes, I am brought to the station's Tactical Operations Center, a vast room filled with displays, operators, and the steady flow of data from across human space. Admiral Webb is there, along with Chen and a dozen other officers I do not recognize. On the main display, I see a representation of the battle space, a Vorith fleet of approximately 600 vessels advancing toward a human system on the edge of explored space, and standing in their path, 12 ships.
Admiral, I say, my voice steady despite my disbelief, there must be a mistake in your display. You cannot be engaging 600 Vorith vessels with 12 ships.
There's no mistake.
Admiral, I have seen the Vorith in combat. 12 ships against 600. It is not a battle. It is suicide.
Webb does not look at me. His eyes are fixed on the display, and there is something in his expression that I have never seen in any species. An absolute, unshakable certainty.
Watch, he says. The Vorith fleet moves as a single organism. Tendrils of vessels spreading out to encircle the human formation. It is a standard envelopment tactic, one that has worked against every fleet that has faced them. Surrounded and overwhelmed, even the most powerful ships in the Thessaly arsenal were torn apart within minutes.
The human ships do not evade. They do not scatter. They hold position in a tight formation, waiting.
The Vorith close.
And then the human ships fire. I do not understand what I am seeing at first. The weapons are unlike anything in my experience. Not energy beams or projectiles, but something else. Something that seems to twist the fabric of space itself. Where the weapons strike, Vorith vessels simply stop. Their movement ceases. Their hulls begin to fragment, breaking apart at a molecular level. But it is not just the weapons. The Vorith counterfire is intense. Hundreds of vessels pouring everything they have at the 12 human ships. I have seen such barrages before. I have watched them tear through the strongest shields in the Thessaly arsenal like water through sand. The human shields hold.
Not perfectly. I can see the energy readings fluctuate, see the damage that is accumulating, but they hold. And while they hold, those terrifying weapons continue to fire, continue to unmake the Vorith vessels with an efficiency that should not be possible.
How? I whisper.
And then I see something that makes my heart stop.
The Vorith are caught between two forces. The encirclement they planned has become a trap.
The battle lasts 14 minutes.
I am sitting down without remembering when I sat. My legs would not hold me. 12 million years of Thessaly civilization, and we never developed weapons like this. We never conceived of tactics like this. We never imagined that anyone could fight like this.
Webb turns to look at me, and for the first time, I see something other than calculation in his eyes. There is weight there, sorrow.
This is just the beginning, he says. The main Vorith swarm is still out there. We're going to need the Armada to coordinate with our forces if we want to end this permanently.
Coordinate? Admiral, after what I just witnessed, I am not certain the Armada will be able to do anything but stay out of your way.
No, Webb shakes his head. We can win the battles, High Executor. We've spent 3 centuries preparing to win the battles. But winning the war, truly ending the Vorith threat, will require every species in this galaxy working together. Humanity can lead this fight. We can't finish it alone.
I look at him, this aged, fragile creature whose species has existed for the briefest heartbeat compared to my own, and I realize that I have misjudged humanity in the most fundamental way possible. They are not naive. They are not primitives playing at civilized warfare. They understand something that my people forgot somewhere in our 12 million years of existence. Power alone is not enough. Victory alone is not enough. What matters is what comes after.
What do you need from me? I ask.
I need you to return to the Armada. I need you to tell them what you've seen. And I need you to help them understand that we're not here to replace them. We're here to fight beside them.
Admiral, with respect, why should they believe me? The Thesari dismissed humanity for 3 centuries. Why would they trust us now?
Because you're not asking them to trust humanity, High Executor. You're asking them to trust you.
He is right. The realization settles over me like a weight. I am the last High Executor of the Thesari Ascendancy. My word still carries weight with the surviving council members. If I return to the Armada and tell them what I have witnessed, they will listen. And if I tell them that our only hope of survival is to follow humanity's lead, they will have no choice but to believe me. The journey to the Kareth Nebula takes 6 hours at human FTL speeds, faster than anything in the Thesari fleet by a factor of 3. I spend the journey reviewing tactical data, fleet dispositions, and the detailed plans that Admiral Webb has shared with me. The scale of what humanity has prepared is staggering. Not just the ships, though there are more of those than I can easily count, but the logistics, the supply chains, the medical facilities, the refugee processing centers. They have been planning for this moment for centuries, preparing not just to fight a war, but to rebuild a galaxy afterward. When I arrive at the Armada's staging point, I am met by Supreme Tactician Oreth Val himself. The Valoth are massive compared to the Thesari, 4-armed, heavily armored, bred for war across 1,000 generations. Val has fought in more battles than most species have individuals. He is the most experienced military commander in the known galaxy. And he is afraid. I can see it in the way he holds himself, in the careful neutrality of his expression. The Valoth do not show fear easily, but Val has watched 2/3 of the Armada's strength evaporate in failed engagements. He has received reports of the Thesari core worlds falling. He knows, as I know, that they are fighting a war they cannot win. High Executor, he says, his deep voice rumbling through the docking bay. I did not expect to see you again. Supreme Tactician, I bring news. Good news or bad? I consider the question. Strange news. News that may change everything. Val watches in silence. When the recording ends, he is very still. This is verified? I witnessed it myself. And these humans, they are willing to share this technology? These tactics? They are willing to do more than share, Supreme Tactician. They are willing to lead, but only if we will follow. Val's massive hands clench and unclench. I understand his conflict. The Valoth have never followed anyone. They are warriors, conquerors, proud beyond measure. To accept human leadership would be an admission of inadequacy that goes against every instinct in his nature.
How many ships do they have? He asks finally.
Yes.
Val is quiet for a long moment. Around us, the docking bay hums with activity. Crew members moving supplies, technicians conducting repairs, the endless work of maintaining a fleet at war.
The Armada has been waiting for reinforcements, Val says. We sent requests to every remaining power in the galaxy. Most did not respond. Those that did, he shakes his head. There is nothing left to send.
I know. And now you tell me that the solution was hiding in the Orion arm all along. A species we all dismissed as irrelevant.
Yes. Do you understand how that makes me feel, High Executor? I meet his eyes, 4 of them, deep amber, ancient beyond counting. I understand, Supreme Tactician, because I feel the same way.
Val's jaw tightens. Then, slowly, he nods.
Supreme Tactician.
Do not mistake this for capitulation, High Executor. I am a warrior. I have dedicated my existence to the defense of the Veloth people. If following a young species is what is required to save my people, then I will follow. My pride is not worth the lives of billions.
I transmit the data. Within hours, human vessels begin arriving at the nebula's edge. Not an invasion force, but a coordination team. Liaisons, tacticians, logistics specialists. They integrate with the Armada's command structure with an efficiency that borders on unsettling, adapting to alien systems and protocols as if they had been doing it for centuries.
Perhaps, I realize, they have been preparing for exactly this. The next 4 days are a blur of planning, coordination, and preparation. Human tactical officers work alongside Thesari strategists and Valeth war chiefs, merging centuries of experience into a coherent battle plan. Human supply ships arrive with munitions, repair equipment, and medical supplies designed to treat species they have never officially encountered. Somehow, they have the right supplies for everyone. And the fleet grows. Human vessels continue to arrive. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, ships of classes I do not recognize. They take up positions around the Armada, their precise formations complementing the more chaotic positioning of the Galactic Coalition. Where the Armada has 900 ships, the human fleet now numbers over 4,000. And more are coming. On the morning of the 5th day, Admiral Webb himself arrives aboard a ship that dwarfs everything else in the combined fleet. It is not beautiful, not by Thesari standards, but there is a brutal elegance to its lines, a sense of purpose that transcends aesthetics. Webb meets with Val and myself in the command center of the Valoff flagship. There is no ceremony, no posturing. He simply enters, nods to us both, and begins reviewing the tactical display. The main Vorith swarm is 12 hours out, he says. Approximately 18,000 vessels, maybe more. Val makes a sound that might be a growl. 18,000! The Armada at full strength was 4,000, and we were destroyed. The Armada at full strength was fighting with conventional weapons and tactics. We're going to fight differently. Webb pulls up a holographic map of the engagement zone, a region of space near the nebula's edge where the Vorith will have to pass to continue their advance. I see the positions of the combined fleet, the projected Vorith approach vectors, the deployment of various human weapon systems. And I see something else. Admiral, I say slowly, there appear to be no defensive positions in this plan. That's correct. This is an offensive strategy. Yes, You intend to attack the Vorith directly.
High Executor, humanity spent 3 centuries watching the galaxy. We saw the Thessary ascendancy at its height. We saw the Valoff hegemony and the collective of Ran and a dozen other powers, all of them secure in their belief that they were untouchable.
He gestures at the tactical display, at the vast swarm of Vorth vessels approaching like a tide of darkness. We knew that something like this was coming. Not what it would be exactly, but something. Because the universe is full of things that don't care about ancient civilizations or 12 million years of history. The universe is full of monsters. He turns to face us both, the last High Executor of the Thessari, the supreme tactician of the Valoth, and his voice is quiet, calm, and absolutely certain. So we became the bigger monster, and today we're going to prove it. The next 12 hours are the longest of my 9,000 years. The combined fleet moves into position, a careful choreography of thousands of vessels, human and alien alike, taking up positions that the human tacticians have calculated to the meter. The Armada follows human lead, trusting in tactics they do not fully understand, using weapons that have been modified by human engineers to specifications that the Thessari scientists are still trying to comprehend. The Vorith arrive as a wall of darkness. They are endless. 18,000 vessels, yes, but each one is vast, organic, terrifying in its alien geometry. They move through space like living things, because they are living things in some sense that defies conventional biology. They consume and grow and adapt and spread, and in 18 months, they have destroyed more civilized life than the previous 1,000,000 years of galactic warfare combined. The combined fleet stands in their path. And humanity speaks. It comes through every communication channel simultaneously, a broadcast that reaches every ship in both fleets, every receiver within range, perhaps every corner of the galaxy for all I know. It is not a threat, not a challenge, just a statement of fact. Voreth Swarm, you have entered space under the protection of the United Human Confederacy. You have destroyed worlds and peoples under our protection. You will advance no further. You will harm no one else. You will surrender or be destroyed. There is no third option. The Vorith do not respond. They never respond. They simply consume. They accelerate toward the combined fleet. 18,000 vessels moving as a single predatory organism. All vessels, Webb's voice comes through the command channel. Engage. What happens next is beyond my ability to describe coherently. Human weapons tear into the Voreth advance with an intensity that beggars comprehension. The temporal displacement charges I witnessed before are only part of it. There are weapons that seem to fold space around themselves, weapons that flash with colors outside the visible spectrum, weapons that make no sound and leave no debris because they simply unmake the matter they touch. And the Vorith die. They die in hundreds, in thousands. The adaptive capabilities that made them invincible against conventional weapons cannot keep pace with the sheer variety of human armaments. Every time they begin to develop countermeasures against one weapon type, 3 more strike them from different angles. But they are not helpless. The Vorith fight back with everything they have. Organic weapons that warp space, attacks that bypass shields entirely, tactics that have destroyed fleets 1,000 times. Human ships take damage. Human ships are destroyed. And humanity does not stop. More vessels arrive, more weapons fire. The combined fleet moves as a single entity, human coordination networks linking every ship together in a dance of destruction that is terrifying in its precision. I watch from the Valoth flagship as the tide of battle shifts. It is not instant. The Vorith are too numerous, too powerful for that. But over hours, the balance changes. The endless swarm begins to thin. The advance slows, then stops, then begins to reverse. They're retreating, Val breathes, his voice hushed with disbelief. The Vorith are retreating. I see it now. The pattern in human tactics. They are not simply destroying the Vorith. They are driving them, forcing them into specific sectors of space, channeling them toward... Admiral Webb, I say into the commands channel, what is at those coordinates? There is a pause before he responds. The end, High Executor. The end of the Vorith. I do not understand. Not until I see the ships emerging from FTL at the center of the human formation. They are massive, larger than anything I have ever seen, their surfaces covered with equipment that pulses with energies I cannot identify. What are those? Omega platforms, Chen's voice comes through. We built them specifically for this, specifically for an enemy that cannot be defeated through conventional attrition. What do? They generate a cascade failure in anything based on Vorith biology. It spreads through their network, their ships, their communication systems. Everything connected to the Vorith hive mind will cease to function within approximately 43 minutes. You can kill them all? Every Vorith vessel in the swarm? Yes. I stare at the display, at the platforms powering up, at the Vorith desperately trying to break through the human lines to reach them. Humanity did not just prepare to fight the Vorith, they prepared to end them, permanently. Why didn't you use these immediately? Val demands. Why allow the battle at all? Human lives were lost. The Vorith needed to be concentrated, Webb responds. The cascade requires a critical mass of Vorith biomatter within the affected region. If we had used the platforms earlier, we would have killed only a fraction of the swarm. The rest would have scattered, adapted, returned stronger. So you used the Armada as bait? We used the Armada to convince them they still had a chance, to draw them in, to make them commit everything they had. Val is silent. I understand his conflict. The combined fleet has taken losses, perhaps 200 ships destroyed, thousands of lives lost. For the Valoth, that is unacceptable. For humans, it is the cost of victory. Calculated, accepted, mourned but accepted. Platforms are charged, someone reports. Cascade initiation in 30 seconds. On the display, the Vorith are fighting with renewed desperation. They sense what is coming, somehow. They throw themselves at the human lines with everything they have, trying to break through, to reach the platforms, to stop what cannot be stopped. They fail. 10 seconds. I find myself holding my breath. 9,000 years of life, and I have never seen anything like this. Never witnessed the death of a species. Never been present for the moment when the universe itself changed. Initiating cascade. The platforms pulsed with light. Not bright, not blinding, just light. It spreads outward in a sphere, passing through the Vorith swarm like a wave through water. And everywhere it touches, the Vorith stop. They do not explode or burn or tear apart. They simply cease. Their vessels lose power. Their weapons fall silent. Their terrible, consuming advance ends as if it never was. 18,000 ships, dead in an instant. The silence that follows is absolute. For a long moment, no one speaks, no one moves. The combined fleet drifts in formation. surrounded by the drifting husks of the enemy that nearly destroyed everything. Then, slowly, the communications channels come alive, voices in 100 languages, crying out in relief, in joy, in disbelief. The Vorith are dead. The war is over. The galaxy has survived. But I am not listening to the celebrations. I am watching Admiral Webb, who stands at the center of the Valoth flagship's command center with his hands clasped behind his back. His expression has not changed. There is no triumph in his eyes, no satisfaction. Only weariness and something that might be grief. Admiral, I say quietly, moving to stand beside him, you should be celebrating with your people. I'll celebrate when the dead are mourned, he replies. When the refugees are housed, when the rebuilding begins. Victory is just the end of the dying. It's not the end of the work.
Admiral Webb, Marcus, why did humanity do this? You could have stayed hidden, let the galaxy consume itself, built your strength while the rest of us burned. No one would have known.
He looks at me, and for the first time, I see the full weight of what humanity has carried for 3 centuries. The knowledge that they were watching a galaxy full of species that considered them primitive. The certainty that something terrible was coming. The burden of preparing for a war they hoped would never happen. Because we're human, he says simply. Because we've seen what happens when people stand aside and let evil win. Because some fights you can't walk away from, no matter how much you want to.
But you didn't even know us. You didn't owe us anything.
High Executor, we didn't do this because we owed you. We did it because it was right. He pauses, looking out at the drifting Vorith hulks. 300 years ago, humanity was exactly what you thought. Violent, fractured, primitive. But we grew. We learned. We chose to become something better. And when the time came, we chose to use what we had built to save as many lives as we could, regardless of whether those lives had ever looked twice at us. I am silent for a long time. My people have existed for 12 million years. We built civilizations that spanned galaxies. We thought we understood everything the universe had to offer. And here, at the end of everything, a species less than 1,000 years old has taught us what it truly means to be civilized. What happens now? I ask. Now we rebuild. Humanity will share our technology, our resources, our knowledge. We'll help the Thessaly find new worlds, help the Valoth rebuild their fleets, help everyone who needs it get back on their feet. And you expect nothing in return? We expect partnership, cooperation, a galaxy that works together instead of looking down on the young species still finding their way. He meets my eyes. We expect to be treated as equals, not superiors, not inferiors. Equals. After what you have done today, many will see you as saviors. Maybe. But saviors have a way of becoming tyrants if you let them. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy, High Executor. We just want to be part of it. I look out at the stars, the same stars my ancestors gazed upon 12 million years ago, when we were young and afraid and full of wonder. I thought we had grown beyond that wonder. I thought we had seen everything. I was wrong. The universe is vast and ancient and full of terrors, but it is also full of hope if you know where to look. And today, I found hope in the most unexpected place, in a species we once dismissed as primitive, a species that spent 3 centuries quietly preparing to save us all. The Armada waited for reinforcements, I say softly. A human warship arrived instead. Webb smiles, and for the first time, I see the warmth beneath his steel.
We arrived, he agrees, and we're not going anywhere.
The stars burn on around us, ancient and patient, waiting for whatever comes next. And for the first time in 18 months, I am not afraid.
Because whatever the universe sends next, we will face it together. The old and the young, the proud and the humble, the endless and the new.
Together. This is the human way. And now, it is ours.